Hey guys, if you like this content, I would greatly appreciate it if you guys like the video and subscribed to my channel. It helps make these videos worth it going forward. What's up guys, Altcoin Tripper here with the crypto market review. As always, this is not financial advice. I am not an expert to do your own research. Today let's review Ethereum and what's going on with that token. So what do we see? We saw this long accumulation period. And I was pretty confident that Ethereum was going to go to at least 1600. I was pretty adamant about it all throughout September and early October. I felt like this was forming a mid short-term bottom, and I still personally believe that there's probably more left in the tank. And the reason for that is that price consolidated for weeks on end. We saw this consolidation first happening in September 22nd, and it ended October 22nd. So it chopped around for about a month overall. And typically speaking, when you see price chopping around for about, this amount of time, the preceding move is going to be pretty explosive. So it's not the same context, but because after this big dump, we saw another consolidation for about the same amount of time overall. This was about a month consolidation from June to July, and then we saw an explosive move up. Again, this is a little bit different contextually because this didn't have such a big market nuke, whereas this one had this massive move down from $2,000 all the way down to $1,000 or sub $1,000, and this was consolidation before a run up in August. This move here was just a slower grind down, but nonetheless, price did chop around for about a month, and I think that price does look pretty decent in the short to midterm. We are seeing price pull back now, which does seem pretty common after this big move up from 1,200 all the way up to 1,600. But I still believe that there's probably more left in the tank here. And again, the reason is just that price did consolidate for a while here, and I do believe that there's a little bit more left in the tank. So what are my targets? Overall, my target would be around $1,800 at a minimum, and possibly $2,000 if price or if Bitcoin holds up overall. Those would be like some main targets for me personally. And it's also interesting to see that on overall higher time frame charts, we're potentially seeing a shift in market structure. And what I mean by market structure for higher time frame charts is simply that we're seeing higher highs and higher lows. We're not necessarily seeing the higher high quite yet. For me personally, the higher high would have to break this recent high here. Oh, that's terrible. This recent high here around $2,000, this would be like the latest high that we set. But this to me was the last low back in July. And it looks to me like we just saw another low. Because lows take a long time to form, and that's really important to note, is that these lows each took about a month to form. And to me, this looks like a significant low because of the amount of time that price spent chopping around in that area. And to me, a bullish confirmation would see a higher high around this $2,000 level. So if we see that, then I think that things actually look pretty decent in the midterm. If we see something like this, where price makes a significant higher high, not just a short swing above. So if we see something like this where price just dips a little bit higher and then starts to break down heavily, I wouldn't personally call that a higher high. I'd really want to see a convincing higher high. So, maybe if we see something like the mid 2Ks, something that's significantly higher than this recent high in $2,000 in August, that to me would really show that there is indeed a shift in market structure, at least on the daily, to where price could reverse. Now, with that said, the last time that we've had that structure was back in February and March of 2022. So we saw this high here, we saw a low high, followed by a higher low, and then a higher high. So at this point, I was bullish because we had a bullish shift in market structure. But once we lost this low back in early mid-May, that's when I decided that this is just breaking down. Because if we saw this low getting broken, then it wasn't going to be a higher low. And what you really wanted to see was this higher low set at like 2,700. around here, this would have really set a higher low at that point. And to me, that would have continued the overall narrative of a bullish market structure. But this, to me, broke down once we lost these lows. It was invalidated. Now, with that said, what I'm really watching for here in this situation is that these current lows, they look a little bit different than these past lows. For one, this consolidation period back in January, it didn't last nearly as long as the one we saw in July. Furthermore, we did see some consolidation back in February to March, but really lows they stand out on the chart to you. So what I mean by that is that you want to see price action that you've seen back in September and October, where you see let me do a better example. You want to see price come back down, and you want to see like relatively low volatility and lower volume. This to me is like a good example of a low, just because of how little volatility there was and how much chop there was. And this to me just looks like a more reasonable low. Whereas this low right here, while it was a short-term low, price went from 2,500 all the way up to 3,500. There was a lot of volatility. There was a lot of spiking in both directions. So back then, this to me looks a little bit different than what we saw back in recent memory for this current low. So you want to see more price action like this, in my opinion, than you do like this when you consider something a reasonable low. So what am I trying to say here? I am saying that because price chopped around for 30 days recently, I am of the opinion that price is going to go higher. I think that $1,800 is a reasonable target personally, and that's like kind of the area that I'm looking for. Of course, be wary of the current macro environment. It is very scary, lots of unpredictability. Fed could come out with some news tomorrow or something, some randomly that just wrecks everything. So it's really important to stay on your feet and everything, and really be fluid with your ideas. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this update. Thank you so much for the support.